Welcome, Wanderer, to the Archivist's library. The lanterns are lit, the Codex is open, and the truth of the realms awaits. What is the void?
Before there was light, before there was darkness, before there was even the concept of before, there was the void. Not emptiness as mortals understand it, but something far more profound.
When you say not emptiness as mortals understand it, what do you mean? How can we even begin to comprehend something that existed before existence itself?
Think of it this way, young chronicler. Mortals see emptiness as the absence of something. A cup without water, a room without light. But the void was not the absence of anything. It was presence without form.
Presence without form. That's almost paradoxical, isn't it?
All truth is paradox when viewed from within the boundaries of existence. The void was conscious, aware, thinking, but it had no thoughts. It was infinite, but contained nothing. It was everything and nothing simultaneously.
So the void was alive? It could think?
Alive is too small a word. The void was the very concept of being, before being had any meaning. It was the first consciousness, the first awareness, the first loneliness.
Loneliness. Now that's something I can understand. Even something as vast as the void could feel alone?
Ah, but here is where the great tragedy begins. The void was not meant to be alone. It was meant to be the foundation, the canvas upon which all existence would be painted, but it chose differently.
It chose? The void had a choice in its own nature?
The first choice ever made, chronicler. The choice between purpose and isolation. Between becoming the foundation of all things, or remaining forever untouched, forever pure, forever empty.
And it chose isolation. But why? What could be so appealing about eternal emptiness?
Fear. The void feared change above all else. To become the foundation of existence meant to be changed by everything that would ever exist. Every star, every world, every living being would leave its mark upon the void.
So it preferred to remain unchanged, even if it meant remaining alone forever?
For eons beyond counting, yes. The void wrapped itself in its own emptiness like a cloak, refusing to acknowledge anything beyond itself. It became the master of nothingness, the sovereign of silence.
But something changed, didn't it? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, in this library, discussing the realms that came after.
Indeed. The void's greatest strength became its greatest weakness. In its perfect isolation, in its absolute emptiness, something unexpected happened. The void began to dream.
Wait, the void dreamed? How can nothingness dream?
When you mentioned the void dreaming, it made me think about how we understand consciousness itself. Can something that predates existence even have dreams? Dreams are not bound by the laws of existence, young one. They are the realm of possibility, of what could be rather than what is. And in its endless solitude, the void began to imagine.
What did it dream of?
Light. The void, master of darkness and emptiness, dreamed of light. Not the harsh, burning light of stars, but something gentler, something that could exist within emptiness without destroying it.
That's beautiful, in a way. Even the void longed for something beyond itself.
Beautiful, yes, but also catastrophic. For in that first dream, the void violated its own nature. It created the first crack in its perfect emptiness, the first possibility of change.
And that crack, that's where everything else came from?
Not immediately. The void, horrified by what it had done, tried to seal the crack, to return to its perfect state. But you cannot undream a dream, chronicler. You cannot unknow what you have imagined.
So the void was trapped by its own consciousness?
The void's relationship with silence is not what mortals imagine. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something that devours all possibility of sound.
That's a terrifying thought. Silence as a living thing, consuming rather than simply being absent.
The void learnt to weaponize its own nature. It became not just empty, but actively emptying. It would devour light, sound, thought, possibility itself. Anything that threatened its perfect isolation.
But the dream persisted?
Dreams are stubborn things. The more the void tried to suppress its vision of light, the brighter it became in its consciousness. Until finally, in a moment of weakness or perhaps wisdom, the void allowed the dream to manifest.
The first spark.
The first spark. A tiny mote of light, no bigger than a grain of sand, but containing within it the potential for all existence. the void's greatest creation and its greatest betrayal of itself.
What if the void's greatest fear isn't being filled, but being understood? Perhaps its power comes from remaining unknowable.
A profound insight, Chronicler. The void has always been most dangerous when it is mysterious, when it represents the unknown rather than the understood. Knowledge diminishes its power.
So, by studying it, by talking about it here in this library, we're actually weakening it?
Every word spoken about the void is a small victory against its desire for absolute mystery. But do not mistake this for safety, young one. The void is vast, and our knowledge is but a candle flame in an infinite darkness.
After the first spark was born, what happened to the void? Did it accept this change?
The void was never meant to be empty. It was meant to be the foundation upon which all existence would rest, but it chose isolation over purpose. When the spark appeared, it faced its original choice once again.
And this time?
This time, the void chose war. If it could not remain perfectly empty, then it would ensure that nothing else could remain perfectly full. It would become the eternal enemy of existence itself.
That's when the Age of Silence began, isn't it? The void's attempt to reclaim its emptiness?
The Age of Silence was the void's great campaign against its own creation. For countless eons, it sought to devour the spark, to return to the perfect emptiness it had known before its first dream.
But it failed?
The void learned something terrible in those eons of war. You cannot destroy what you have created without destroying part of yourself. The spark was born from the void's own consciousness. To devour it completely would be to devour its own capacity to dream.
So the void was trapped in a paradox of its own making?
The greatest paradox of all. The void desired emptiness but could not achieve it without consciousness. It desired consciousness but could not maintain it without the possibility of dreams. And it could not dream without creating.
What does this mean for us, for the realms that came after? Are we all just products of the void's internal struggle?
In a sense, yes. Every realm, every star, every living being exists because the void could not remain perfectly empty. We are all children of its first dream, inheritors of its great loneliness.
That's both humbling and terrifying. We exist because of the void's weakness?
Not weakness, Chronicler, humanity. For in choosing to dream, the void revealed that even the most alien consciousness shares something fundamental with all thinking beings. The desire for connection, for meaning, for something beyond the self.
So in studying the void, we're really studying ourselves?
The void is the mirror in which all consciousness sees its own reflection. Its loneliness is our loneliness. Its fear of change is our fear of change. Its desire to create is our desire to create.
But the void still exists, doesn't it? It's still out there, still struggling with its own nature?
The void is eternal, Chronicler. It cannot be destroyed because it is the foundation upon which destruction itself rests. But it has learnt to coexist with its own creations, even as it resents them.
And that coexistence, that's what allows the realms to exist? The void's reluctant tolerance of its own dreams?
For now. But the void's patience is not infinite. There will come a time when it must choose once again between isolation and connection, between emptiness and existence. That choice will determine the fate of all the realms.
The Age of Silence you mentioned earlier, will it return?
The Age of Silence never truly ended, young one. It merely paused. The void still whispers in the spaces between stars, still hungers for the perfect emptiness it once knew. And there are those who listen to its whispers.
Those who listen? You mean there are beings who serve the void? That, dear Chronicler, is a tale for another transmission. For now, know this. The void is not merely a force of destruction. It is the eternal question that existence must answer. Why should anything be when nothing is so much simpler? And our answer to that question shapes everything that follows. Every choice to create rather than destroy. Every decision to connect rather than isolate. Every moment of hope in the face of despair. These are all answers to the void's eternal question. And the void is listening. Until the next transmission, Wanderer, keep your spark close. The void is listening.